Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzy. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer. Steven Singer Jewelers. Nice to have you along for the ride. Happy Monday. Hope you guys just had a beautiful weekend outside of, the Phillies dropping the series against the Marlins. And you know what? It's not like they limp into the All-Star break or anything dramatic like that, but it is a shot in the arm losing 2 or 3 to the Marlins after you sweep the Tampa Bay Rays, and then you face a divisional opponent that's not supposed to be as good as the Rays, who are best team in the American League, and then you go face one of the best teams, let's face it, in the National League. They're not the Braves, but they're still one of the best teams in the National League. They're in your division, and you just can't find a way to win the series. You find a way to win Game 1 in dramatic fashion, and then Game 2, nothing. Game 3, nothing. With another struggling start from Aaron Nola. Still unable, now through the first unofficial half of the season, unable to put 2 good starts together. Still has not had back-to-back starts where you go, oh, that guy right there. That guy looks like he's an ace. That guy looks like he's a number 1 guy. That guy looks like he's a number 2 starter at worst. But no, continues to look like a number 3, 4, and sometimes on really bad days, number 5. And yesterday, if you just look at the home runs that he surrendered, 3 of them, by the way, he certainly looked like a guy who just didn't have it on this given Sunday afternoon in Miami. Missing spots. Even the first home run he gave up, the 461-foot home run to Sanchez, he just left. He threw it right to JT Realmuto's mitt, and it got blasted. Originally reported at 410 feet. This one went 461 feet after a recalculation, and that seemed a lot more accurate considering it was about the facing of the upper deck in right center field in Miami. All the home runs that he gave up were no doubters. They were blasts. And for whatever reason, he just didn't have stuff to fool the Miami hitters yesterday, and they made him pay for it drastically. Offensively speaking, not a lot to brag about there. We'll get into the game a little bit more in a second. We'll let you hear from Rob Thompson and what he has to say about Aaron Nola. We'll also let you hear from Rob Thompson about what he has to say with where his ball club is at right now heading into the All-Star break, and actually what he is looking forward to most heading into the second half of the season. So we'll get into all that. But let's really start with a celebration, okay? Because odds are you went to bed last night knowing that the Phillies lost 2 or 3 to the Marlins to head into the All-Star break. But did you see, and I'm sure if you've turned on your computer or looked at your phone, Paul Reed is returning to be the backup center for Joel Embiid. Adrian Wojnarowski dropping the knowledge yesterday, saying that the 76ers restricted free agent Paul Reed has signed a 3-year, $23 million offer sheet with the Jazz. His agent, Ron Shade of Octagon Basketball, told ESPN the Sixers had till Sunday at 11:59 p.m. And then what happened by Sunday at 11:59 p.m.? Paul Reed signed the offer sheet back with the Sixers to remain with the Sixers as Daryl Morey decided to match the offer sheet as they had the right to do. You have a $23 million man with the 76ers. A very crowded center room for the Sixers. When you think about Montrezl Harrell being back here at Philadelphia, Mo Bamba being added to the roster there. Let's see, you have the MVP of the league, Joel Embiid, and now you have the man himself, Paul Reed, returning to the 10-9-8 76ers. It's going to be a crowded room. Here's my take. First off, I'm happy a guy like Paul Reed signs this kind of deal. Certainly a friend of the show. Tyrese Maxey actually put out this tweet. If you didn't see it, do I still have to pay you for a hoodie, bro? Question mark. Apparently there was some kind of hoodie thing going on there, and Paul Reed quote tweeted it and said, "At this point, the whole organization gets a free hoodie." Good for you. Hard work paying off for the man. Hard work paying off for the man. Love it. Here's the thing. Mo Bamba and all these guys and Paul Reed, of course. Joel Embiid, I will be shocked if he plays 65 games. And that's not on account of, he's injured. I think there's going to be a lot of nagging, hamstring injury. There's going to be a lot of nagging things. I don't think there's going to be, look, knock on wood. Injury-wise, he's healthy. But I'm just saying you're going to see those, he's played this back-to-back. He's not going to play in this game today. Oh, he's got this nagging hamstring thing. It's nothing serious, but we just want to make sure we're being precaution. We're taking precaution. We're being extra cautious with Joel Embiid. Mobamba, get in there. Paul Reed, get in there. Montrezl Harrell, get in there. This is going to be akin to the load management era of Joel Embiid and the 76ers. That's what this tells me. If the Sixers I think the Sixers, for the most part, and when we had Kai Carlin on last week, one of the things he got into was that Paul Reed was going to come back. And then I saw the offer sheet being extended there by the Utah Jazz, and the Sixers were going to have to match that. And when I saw the price tag, $23 million, I went, that's kind of steep there. That's kind of steep. And then it's $15.7 million for the last 2 years, which go fully guaranteed. Now, the first year, the way it works, the first year is guaranteed. The next 2 years are guaranteed if the Sixers make the second round of the playoffs, which I think is going to happen. So I find that an interesting thing. But the Sixers have a lot of money tied up in Paul Reed with this deal. This makes him 1,000% the backup center to Joel Embiid. Having this crowded of a room and adding Mo Bamba and the Sixers feeling like they knew they were going to add him and they were going to retain his rights, and the Sixers going out there and retaining Montrezl Harrell as well, it makes me think that Harrell, it makes me think that Paul Reed, and it makes me feel like Mo Bamba are going to get a lot of minutes. And it looks like Paul Reed is going to get a decent amount of starts in the upcoming season. Because the goal with this franchise is, of course, yes, again, to make sure that Joel Embiid is healthy come playoff time, make sure that Joel Embiid is well-rested come playoff time, and make sure that he is going to play at the absolute best level he can. And the way you do that is making sure that you are sparing him as many minutes as possible during the regular season. I don't think Joel Embiid is going to be having back-to-back MVP seasons. He might play like an MVP again, but when it comes to actually playing enough games, when it comes to actually going out there and having an opportunity to stuff the stat sheet as he had the last couple of seasons, I don't think he's going to have that opportunity this year. So when I look at this Paul Reed deal, what it tells me is you have 3 guys on this team that are going to be making some money, especially Paul Reed, and you're going to have some guys on this team because of that money that you're going to want to make sure that you're playing those guys and that Joel Embiid is getting a break. They now have we talk about it in the NFL a lot. Oh, make sure you have a stable of running backs. Make sure you have 2 good quarterbacks. Make sure you have depth. You never know what can happen. Well, the 76ers now have a stable of centers ready to trot in there to make sure that they're spelling Joel Embiid from the hardships of a long NBA season. And now with the NBA having that midseason tournament for whatever reason, money, okay? Now you're going to be going at it a little bit more in Vegas for possible mid-season championship. It just sounds like a participant. It sounds like a glorified all-star game is what it does. But anyway, the Sixers now have a stable of centers to make sure Joel Embiid is as fresh and as healthy as possible come playoff time. So there's no, it's a long season. I got tired. I messed up my knee, the 3rd month of the season, and now I'm still recovering. Not 100%. There's going to be no excuses. If everything goes according to plan, with Joel Embiid and he's healthy and no injuries creep in there and all that stuff, then he will be as fresh as possible come playoff time. Now, how do you get as close to injury-free as possible? Well, you don't play him a lot. Or at least you don't play him close to what he's played in years past. That's where you're going to make sure that he's as fresh and as healthy as possible. And how do you do that? You get a stable of centers to be in here. I am very happy for Paul Reed. He's earned this. And aside from being a guy that was just a fan favorite because he was a G League MVP, he worked his way up, and you saw him have to beat out a guy like DeAndre Jordan to make sure that he was getting minutes in the playoffs. So we had to go through that whole Paul Reed victory tour thing from Doc Rivers. Aside from all that, he's good. He is a good backup center option to Joel Embiid. Like, I still think the best guy that they had ever for backing up Joel Embiid was Andre Drummond, and unfortunately that ended far too soon with the Ben Simmons deal, but you had to get that deal done, and there you go. But as far as the guy that I have confidence in that can come in, play defense, block shots, get you some offense, cut to the rim, I think will be really good in a Nick Nurse offense, because that's the other thing. A stable of centers lends you to believe that not only is Paul Reed going to be your backup with this deal being done, but it also leads you to believe that Nick Nurse is going to get what he wants in terms of a lot of ball movement. One of the other things we got into with Kai Carlin at USA Today last week was the idea of this ball movement you're going to see from Nick Nurse. And I know a lot of people are going to want to talk about Nick Nurse on the defensive end of things and what he likes to do, but offensively speaking, the man loves movement. So there's not going to be a lot of standing around doing nothing. And if Joel Embiid is going to be standing around, or if Joel Embiid is going to be playing in that style of offense, then that's even more reason to spell him minutes and make sure he's getting his rest and make sure he is getting his time off and make sure he's going to be a fresh center by the time the playoffs do roll around. Paul Reed could certainly help that by being able to move around. Mo Bamba, we'll see. And Montrezl Harrell is certainly athletic enough to be moving around. But on top of all the stuff, to go back to this, on top of all the stuff with Paul Reed, he's just a good backup center. Love all the stuff that goes on behind it. If he was somebody that was playing elsewhere and the Sixers brought him in, I'm happy about that because, he's a good backup center there. Andre Drummond come in? Oh, all right, that's a good backup center there. I feel very similar about Paul Reed. Still has a ways to go. I'm not saying he's going to be competing for an all-star appearance or anything like that, but very happy this is done from a basketball standpoint and from a sentimental standpoint with Paul Reed coming back to the Sixers. Good for him. I do think it tells us a lot about what could happen next with the 76ers in terms of the style of offense we could see in the upcoming season and just how much we're going to see Joel Embiid in the not-too-distant future. So there you go. There's your Sixers news. That's what a lot of us were waiting for. Now we just go back to our regularly scheduled what the hell's going to go on with James Harden. Now we're back to that. And still, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Joel Embiid did address the media yesterday. He had an interview with Rachel Nichols where he was talking about his great relationship with James Harden, and hopefully James Harden stays around here in Philadelphia, but it is business. They are friends. They are close, says Joel Embiid. All right. What I got from that interview that went, definitely got some numbers yesterday, especially with the Philadelphia fan base. Joel Embiid has no idea where this is going to go. And whatever happens with James Harden, because Joel Embiid's going to be there before you know it, where you're going to sign your last big deal, your last opportunity to really make that NBA money. And talk to any athlete that has gone into like the TV job, other than like maybe Shaq or Charles Barkley. They signed that deal, or maybe Tom Brady, whenever he's going to do it. When they go to the first TV, they look at the paycheck and they're like, well, this ain't what it used to be. But Joel Embiid is understanding the business aspect of the game. And James Harden and him, I think, have had a pretty open dialogue about where James Harden is going to end up, about James Harden's willingness to be traded or possibly stick around in Philly, but they'll still see what's going on there. My prediction in all of this is that their relationship is good enough where it's not going to be strained by James Harden asking out. James Harden asking out isn't, and this hasn't come out anywhere, which I find very interesting because people could get a lot of clicks by throwing this crap against the wall. But I think the fact that everyone would be able to dispel it is a good thing. Somebody could easily throw against the wall, well, James Harden and Joel Embiid hate each other. Adrian Wojnarowski last season put it out there that James Harden was not happy with Doc Rivers and his relationship with Joel Embiid was a work in progress. It's not exactly what you want to hear about a star player that is, buddies with the general manager when you have a franchise player like Joel Embiid. When James Harden asked out, that is one of the things that crossed my mind is this is a problem. He doesn't want to play with Joel Embiid anymore, and nothing like that has come out since, where these two don't get along, they can't share the ball, whatever. If anything, when James Harden, or when Joel Embiid couldn't get the ball in Game 6, in the final minutes of Game 6 against the Celtics in the second round of the playoffs. When he couldn't get the ball, I thought that him saying he couldn't get the ball was a direct shot at James Harden. Why is he controlling the ball so much? It should be in my hands. I'm the MVP. And apparently, him saying that had no effect on the two and their relationship. And now in the offseason, where James Harden has essentially gotten the coach out that he wanted out, and now is reportedly intrigued by whatever Nick Nurse wants to do. And now Joel Embiid talks to Rachel Nichols yesterday and says that he feels like his relationship with James Harden is good. The two are close. The two are tight. And he's just got to work out whatever business he has to work out. I don't think Joel Embiid is taking it as a shot at him that James Harden wants to leave Philadelphia. I think he is taking it more so as a business venture. He could possibly make more money elsewhere. He could possibly, if he goes to the Clippers, maybe he would have a shot to win better than he would have a shot to win here in Philadelphia. I don't necessarily think that's the case. But if James Harden feels that he can still be a contender and make that money, then I think he'll go wherever he can check those two boxes. Do I still have a chance to contend, and will I still make money? He has those opportunities here, but maybe he doesn't have the opportunity to make as much money. I think the way this all plays out, nothing really changes with all this. I think the way this plays out is James Harden is on the roster again at the start of next season. Daryl Morey is willing to wait. James Harden has already opted in. If James Harden really didn't want to be here in Philadelphia, he would not have opted in. Simple as that. He's opted in. So at least part of him was at least willing to accept the idea that he could be back in Philadelphia. Why opt in and then trade? At the time, I was like, maybe he's just doing a solid to Daryl Morey. Yeah, okay. I'll opt in, and then you trade me, and then all is right with the world. I thought him opting into the deal was the best possible scenario so that the Sixers are guaranteed to at least get something in return for him. Now I'm looking at it a different direction. If by opting in, at least he wants to be around here again. Now you're still looking at Nick Nurse as your best off-season acquisition. Him and Patrick Beverley right now. You know, it's not exactly a deep roster in this offseason of acquisitions to this point. But Mo Bamba ain't going to be it. But Patrick Beverley and Nick Nurse, that could be something. Those are really nice additions, especially if Nick Nurse, as I've been saying, is the proper maestro to organize all this talent. We'll see. But as of right now, I think Nick Nurse is going to be your best free agent signing, more or less. And I think you're going to have a very similar starting five. Actually, the exact same starting five that you had going into last season. So there's that. Then maybe you get some help from these summer league kids that are having themselves a nice little summer league. So that's where we're at right now in 76ers land, knowing Paul Reed is officially back with the Sixers and still wondering whether or not James Harden is going to be back. I think we can fast forward to the start of the season and see the exact same starting five we saw from last year. That's where we're at right now as far as the Sixers go. As far as the Phillies, boy, oh boy. They head into the All-Star break after a 7-3 loss to the Miami Marlins. They head into the All-Star break 7 games over 500. They head into the All-Star break winning 23 of their 33 games. Or 32 games. That's pretty damn good. I think a lot of people, especially maybe a month and a half ago, weren't really feeling the Phillies in the postseason. They ride that 13-game road win streak. Unfortunately, it comes to a screeching halt with back-to-back losses in Miami. But the fact that they won 13 road games in a row is a feat, considering going into the last month and a half, they were at that awful, as I've mentioned many times, 371 win percentage on the road. So terrible. And they found a way to turn it around on the road. Now, when they come back from the All-Star break, they're going to have a 7-game home series. They're going to be a 7-game homestand, I should say. They have a 4-game series with the Padres, who just beat the Mets yesterday, and Max Scherzer. They have a 3-game series with the Milwaukee Brewers. And then they're going to go back on the road for a brief stint. Now start winning on the road. Start winning at home again. Last time we saw them at home, they lost 2 or 3 to the Nationals. Another series they should have won that they dropped. But I got to say, of all the Phillies, and I think they're appropriately named all-stars. Of all the Phillies, 2 of the 3 most impressive guys this year are headed to Seattle for tomorrow's All-Star game. Nick Castellanos, obviously, phenomenal season. Looking like the guy that we thought the Phillies signed last year. Absolutely incredible. Chase rate hasn't really gone down that much from last year, but his success rate has certainly gone up. 300 batting average. A guy is 340 on base percentage. A guy started to hit some home runs, especially in the last couple weeks of the unofficial first half of the season. Very impressive. And the right fielder that Nick Castellanos has carried over from last year's playoff run all throughout this year. There hasn't been many plays this year where I looked at Nick Castellanos and go, what the hell is he doing? Like, I've looked at Kyle Schwarber in left field, unfortunately. So Nick Castellanos, certainly. Craig Kimbrell. I thought this was going to be a guy that's just going to empty the tank, whatever he had left in the back end of your bullpen. Not a closer, certainly not going to be the closer, but a guy to come in 7th inning, 8th inning, a guy to come out and give you some good innings later in ball games and all that stuff. I thought that's what he was going to do for you. I did not expect an all-star season put together by Craig Kimbrell. I didn't expect the knuckle curve to have the life on it that it has. I didn't expect his fastball to continue to pop the mid at 97, 98 miles per hour with great location and talk about life, movement on it as well. I could do without the automatic balls. But really, other than that, that's my only complaint about Craig Kimbrell. He has been fantastic, and he's an all-star. The unsung, I guess, all-star hero, if you will, non-all-star, that should have gotten more consideration. Bryson Stat, man, is a player. He is an absolute player. I heard Ruben Amaro Jr. yesterday call him the smartest baseball guy in the room. And he's like, guys like Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, smart baseball guys. But Bryson Stott is on another level when it comes to just understanding the game at a young age and also having confidence to actually go out there and perform. He has been remarkable this year. You talk about Castellanos, Kimbrell, and I think Bryson Stott. Those are your big 3 for this season so far. Everybody else has been good. You can certainly have your highs and lows with everybody else. Brandon Marsh, a lot of highs and lows, of course, this season. Ranger Suarez had a phenomenal month of June and has certainly come back down to earth now in the month of July. We'll hear from Rob Thompson talking about his rotation and how they need this all-star break. But you can talk about a lot of guys on this team. Trey Turner, as far as getting on base, has figured it out a lot better over the last month and a half than he had in the first 2 months of the season. Bryce Harper, since coming back, and he's expected to play Friday. He wouldn't have played yesterday, Rob Thompson said, because he was still a little sore in that elbow. But he's expected to come back and play right after the All-Star break. Even coming back as fast as he did from Tommy John surgery, 5 months, incredible. His batting average has been there. His on-base percentage has been there. And we all know the giant elephant in the room. It's not even an elephant. Everyone's talking about it. We're not ignoring it anymore. Is the lack of power. Alec Boehm has played very well, been a very good third baseman, and of course been able to provide some offense as well. But the Phillies, for the most part, have been very impressive this year. JT Realmuto, the definition of streaky. But if you really had to single out some guys here that absolutely earned their all-star bids, Craig Kimbrell, certainly, and Nick Castellanos, and then Bryson Stott, I think, has been right there with him. Every time he's up to the plate, I feel like we're guaranteed a good at bat. I feel like there's going to be, if an out is going to happen, there's going to be a productive out. He has been every ounce of good that he was last year. He has carried it over from the second half of last season into the first half of this one. Him and Nick Castellanos, I feel like, really build off either strong playoff runs or strong second half finishes. And I think that's really helped the Phillies to be at the point that they're at now, which has been fantastic. And Rob Thompson, I think another shakeup to this lineup is coming because Kyle Schwarber, ladies and gentlemen, I did the numbers yesterday. Kyle Schwarber goes into the All-Star break now with a 151 batting average and on base percentage, okay? So he's not walking. There's not one walk in his last 7 games. There's 11 strikeouts and a 151 on base percentage, a 151 batting average. Oh, and no home runs. Not really what you want at the top of the order. I do feel like another shakeup is coming, and yes, it would be Bryson Stat. I would love to have the 1-2 punch again of Bryson Stat and Trey Turner and have that ahead of Nick Castellanos in this lineup. I feel like when Rob Thompson has now talked a couple of different times about what he's looking forward to after the All-Star break, he talks about the offense finally turning it around. I think the offense is finally going to turn it around once you get Bryson Stat atop the order again. You can still have the instant offense from Kyle Schwarber. He can still have the same at-bats later in the count. You're not worried about Trey Turner going yard. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're going to be giving Kyle Schwarber different pitches. If maybe you put a guy like JT Realmuto behind him, maybe there'll be some backup there. Maybe you're going to have some better pitches there. Maybe you've put, I don't know how you're going to organize the lineup. Maybe you have Schwarber as your 4-hole hitter. If Trey Turner, who was struggling as much as he was in the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, is all of a sudden your cleanup hitter, I think it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that Rob Thompson would put Kyle Schwarber as your 4-hole hitter again. Maybe you move Bryce up, maybe you move Castellanos back, maybe you move him around a little bit. I think Castellanos stays right there at number 3. But you never know when Rob Thompson's going to shake up the lineup, how he's going to do it. The thing that is just the most shocking thing is that he moved Trey Turner to your cleanup spot. Castellanos has been just fine and dandy where he's been. Maybe you move him up to the 2-hole hitter. Maybe you move Bryce Harper to number 3. Whatever puts Kyle Schwarber out of the leadoff spot, I'm fine with. I think it is, yes, the Phillies have won. They've been great with him as the leadoff guy. I think outside of the 8 home runs he hit in the month of June, I think they've won in spite of him being your leadoff hitter. I think he could have very similar at-bats anywhere else in the lineup that maybe even would have been more productive. But I think when they come back from the All-Star break, I think really also what's going to dictate is how Bryce Harper handles first base. And if he is at first base after the All-Star break, then you're going to see Kyle Schwarber as your designated hitter, and maybe he could just concentrate on being your designated hitter, and maybe that'll help his offense, and maybe Rob Thompson gives him that opportunity coming out of the All-Star break to kind of get those numbers in a much better direction than what they were, going in a much better direction than the way they're going heading into the All-Star break, which, again, is a 151 batting average and on-base percentage with 0 walks and 11 strikeouts. That's not good. So hopefully they'll find a way to turn things around coming out of that All-Star break. As far as yesterday goes specifically, it's just deflating. They sweep the Rays, and they lose 2 or 3 to the Marlins. I had put out before the postgame show we do on the JAKIB Media channel, that after a high they experienced in Tampa, they hit a low, dropping 2 or 3 to the Marlins. And somebody was like, well, if you told me they went 4-2 going into the All-Star break, I'm pretty happy. I'm like, yeah, that's one of those things where optics matter. Like, yes, I'm happy that they went on the road and were 2 games over 500 on the road. Again. But they had already won, going into this stretch run, 11 games consecutively on the road. They already showed me they could win on the road. So being over 500 on a brief road trip, 6-game road trip, isn't exactly wowing me, all right? The fact that they beat the Rays wows me. That's great. The Rays did a phenomenal job of winning. They took it to Elder, by the way, yesterday. The Braves, they beat the Braves. The Rays beat the Braves yesterday, which was nice. But winning that series in the way they did, fighting, scratching, clawing, 11 innings, it's great to see that kind of fight against top-tier talent. And then you face top-tier talent in your own division, and that's where you come up small. And it's not just that they came up small, it's the way they came up small. They rode the high of winning game 1 and Christian Pache going out there and getting in the game-winning home run, the 2-run home run, that's great. And then Ranger Suarez struggled. And then you have a guy like Aaron Nola go out there and pitch the way he pitched yesterday. In total, 6 innings, 8 hits, 4 earned runs, and 3 home runs surrendered. More home runs than he gave up already in all of last year. He's on pace for his 4th worst ERA of his career. And all throughout the season, he has not had 2 starts back-to-back of at least 6 innings of work and no more than 2 earned runs allowed. That's not an ace. That's not a number 1 guy. That's not a number 2 guy. That's maybe a number 3 guy on a good day. And he'll come out and he'll dominate against a team like the Rays. He'll have good stuff like he's had against bottom tier talent like the Tigers, for instance. But then you go out and you face a team like the Braves. Oh, you don't give up a hit to a rise, which was good. But if there's one guy that just looks like he needs an all-star break, that's Aaron Nola. After the game, Rob Thompson was asked about Aaron Nola and really the entire pitching staff. And here's what Rob Thompson had to say.
That's exactly what it is. I think there's too many pitches in the middle of the plate, and they're getting good swings on it. You know, those guys hit the ball hard today, often, but they hit the ball hard off everybody, really. I mean, they had good at-bats. You just got to execute better, you know.
You see the same stuff otherwise? I mean, is there a level?
So.
Yeah.
I think so. You know, I think really with all of our starters, the all-star break's coming at the right time. I think they need some rest. They've been, giving us a lot of length for a while now, and I think the extra rest through the break and on the backside, like Nola's going the day after the off day. I hope. I'm thinking that's going to help him.
Is it?
I think Ranger Suarez needs a break. He has been guns a-blazing, since coming back. Had his struggles in his first handful of starts, not even, and then really started to settle out there in the month of June with just a historic month of June. Taijuan Walker, I think, could use this break. Aaron Nola, more than anybody, I think, could use this break. And I also think Zach Wheeler. I think he's right. Everybody could use this break. Christopher Sanchez, I don't think he needs the break. But everybody else, they pretty much need the break. Jose Alvarado is now on the IL again. But everybody could use this break. I look forward to seeing what they got in the second half of the season. I look forward to them, emptying the tank. I look forward to them making a full-blown, playoff push here. At the break, they're 12 games out of first place in the NL East. And as of right now, your playoff teams at the wild card spot are the Marlins, the Diamondbacks, and the Giants, with the Brewers and the Phillies a half game out of the final wild card spot. Phillies open things up against they have their homestand against the Padres, and then they have a homestand against included in the homestand, it's the Brewers as well. So I mentioned 4 games against the Padres and then 3 games against the Brewers. So hopefully that'll be a good opportunity for the Phillies to put themselves, get a little bit of distance between them and the Brewers, and then be able to handle their business against the San Francisco Giants, who are 49-41 on the season going into the All-Star break. They had won their last 2 games going into the break, while the Phillies had lost their last 2 games going into the break. So, yeah, hopefully that's a nice little turnaround. Now, as far as where the Phillies stand right now going into the All-Star break, Rob Thompson also talked about that. His thoughts on the first half of the season.
How you guys get there?
We started off slow, and our rotation was having some problems throwing strikes. We weren't swinging the bats, but then we got on a roll, and I still feel really good. We've lost 2 out of 3 days.
Right.
That's going to happen again, believe me. But I feel really good about this club. I love our rotation. Our bullpen's been great, and I think that there's more offense there. We haven't peaked yet, but we will.
That was the ominous words from after the game. We haven't peaked yet, but we will. So what is he talking about right there? Well, I mentioned guys like Bryson Stat. I mentioned a guy like Nick Castellanos. JT Realmuto needs to be consistent. He needs to be the guy that you saw in the second half of last season. The guy who could hit with that pop. Look, he got that rally started for you on Friday night against the Marlins. That was fantastic with that single to left field. That was great. He has shown home run against the Rays. He has shown that he can get hot. He has also shown that he has been rock bottom. We need to find some kind of consistency and see some kind of consistency from JT Realmuto as the second half gets underway. Kyle Schwarber, home. I mean, I've read the numbers to you already. And yesterday in particular, the slider, no matter who threw it yesterday, was his kryptonite. Absolutely his kryptonite yesterday. In the third inning, waved at the slider way outside, like 3 feet outside. In the fifth inning, flailed at a slider that was low and outside. Wasn't as dramatic, but still just totally fooled on the pitch. And then in the eighth inning, lunged to foul one away, and then popping it out in foul territory to the catcher. So yesterday, the slider was his absolute kryptonite. But I know we're not going to get the June Kyle Schwarber that we have seen before. And this year's June, by Kyle Schwarber's standards, was disappointing. It wasn't a 277. It wasn't a 277 batting average. It wasn't 11 home runs. It was 8 home runs. Was still like a 170 batting average. That's not what you need. A lot better than that from Kyle Schwarber, really, throughout the entire season. And he's starting you off either with a big strikeout or a huge home run, but more often than not, it ends in disappointment. I do think the change is eventually going to be made, especially if Kyle Schwarber doesn't turn things around. And by Kyle Schwarber's standard, by turning things around, that means you're going back to at least hitting a home run as a leadoff hitter every 13, 14 at bats, which I know is a Ruthian type of number, but that's what Kyle Schwarber is capable of. And now going into the All-Star break, I want to make sure I have this as well, because this is something that I think is very important here, because it really is what defines Kyle Schwarber. It's whether or not he could be that, classic home run hitter for you. And now going into the break, he is right there at average, or being projected at least, to get you another 40 home run season. So that means through the rest of July, August, and September, less than 3 months, he is going to have to hit 18 home runs. All right. I'm hoping for it. I'm rooting for it, but I'm not betting on it. I'd love to see him. If he gets really hot in the second half of the season, and look, 22 home runs is nothing to shake a stick at. That's great. But in the second half of the season, Phillies to really climb up there, if they're not going to get that power from Bryce Harper, then you're certainly going to need power from guys that you've relied on in the past to get power. And that's Kyle Schwarber. Nick Castellanos hitting more home runs. Already matching his total from last year is a great thing. Seeing guys like that be able to perform is going to help this team carry themselves into the playoffs. Those guys will help carry them into the playoffs, I should say. But if the offense hasn't peaked yet, but they will, I'm looking at you, Kyle Schwarber. I'm looking at a little bit more pop from Alec Boehm. Would love to see that. I'd love to see him pass last year's total as well of 16 home runs? Love to see that happen. I love Bryce Harper to see. I love to see Bryce Harper hit with some pop. Hopefully this break is exactly what he needs. And then it's other guys in the slot and making sure they're finding that consistency, like JT Realmuto that I mentioned before, and Trey Turner continuing to get on base the way he has over the last month and a half of the season. You get all that, and yes, you will see your offense peak. Then you're going to see the trade deadline. Maybe you have some guys out there who will be able to come in here and help this ball club. Maybe you'll see more of that platoon in center field between left and right-handed pitching with Christian Pache, and then also a guy like Brandon Marsh. And then maybe you get somebody else to come in here and play left field if Bryce Harper does play first at a even adequate level. I don't think it's going to be pretty. Here's what I'm expecting in the second half of the season from Bryce Harper, the first baseman. It ain't going to be pretty. It ain't going to be fluid. He ain't going to be a ballerina out there, but I think he finds a way to get the job done. It's not going to be graceful, but I think he's going to find a way to get the job done. And then I do think they're going to make an acquisition. I think Dave Dombrowski is going to add to this team, and I think it is going to be an outfielder. Who that's going to be as of right now, I am unsure, but I think that's the spot they go to, because I think Bryce is going to handle first base well. He's not going to be a Gold Glover. I think he'll be close to Rhys Hoskins. That's what I think he'll be close to. Now I just hope he brings the power that Rhys can bring. So that's something I'll be looking forward to in the second half of the season. Let me tell you about Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For over 40 years, Steven's been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged and fall in love. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you about the amazing, wonderful people at Manscaped, the leader in below-the-waist grooming. Join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and their skin-safe technology that helps reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So go to manscaped.com and check out their Platinum Package 4.0. It includes their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, as well as their Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. And yes, they come with skin-safe technology that helps you reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So ladies and gentlemen, trust Manscaped. How about Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. You'll love their tropical tasting Bayax that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. They grow all their premium hemp flower in the Garden State, so enjoy. How about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsStation.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how you beautiful people are doing on this fine Monday morning. Going to start it off with the Farzy Show page. Sean Kilrain, what's going on? April friggin' Marlins. Always the same story. It does feel like that. It does feel like that. Sean Kilrain, Nola serving up meatballs to the Marlins yesterday. Oh, yeah. And the thing was, they weren't even spicy. They were just regular old meatballs. Just regular old meatballs. There's a face of Aaron Nola that I've seen way too much this season. And I know for a lot of people, that's just his face. They just don't want to see his face. But anyway, in all seriousness, there's a face he makes where he just, will give up a home run and he kind of goes droopy dog. Wow, that's an old reference. Kind of, oh boy. And he just he'll wipe his face like, God, I suck. And then he'll throw the next pitch and then, that one's 461 feet. Yesterday was not a good look. In no way, shape, or form. Sean Kilroy, B-Ball Paul worked his butt off to get here. Love his hustle. Love the hustle, and let's face it, love the production. Love what he actually gives you. I think I'm not going to go speed, but certainly he's quicker to respond than a lot of centers in the NBA. I think he's got good hands. I think he's good with finishing around the basket. I think over the last 2 years, there is a huge difference over Paul Reed just coming up from the G League and Paul Reed, $23+ million man. I think there's a huge difference. I think he's comfortable. I think when he was on this show, Paul Reed talked about earning the trust of Doc Rivers in big moments and just earning the trust in general to be out there on the floor. That is exactly what you need in your backup center to continue, especially one that's homegrown, to continue to see that comfort, and then with that comfort, more production. And I think the Sixers' bottom line, as much as sentimentally we like Paul Reed, as much as we love Paul Reed, the Sixers have a good backup center. I don't want that to get lost in the story that is Paul Reed, that is B-Ball Paul. The Sixers have a good backup center. That's most important. What else are we talking about here today? San Francisco Giants by a half game. Yeah, Gabe, what's up, Mihai Sanchez? Gabe Kapler always got to bite us. A much-needed break indeed for the Phillies. First wild card chase is on. Gabe Kapler just has the Giants presenting better over the last 2 games. Jim, what's up, Jim? Jim says, keep Reed, dump Embiid. Ooh, that'll be a chant next year if Embiid struggles. Sean Gillespie, Sixers not instilling me with any type of confidence for now. Still have to make it out of the second round. Sean Gillespie, that's every year now. The 82 games of preseason play until the playoffs start. People talk about shortening the season. Well, for me, the Sixers have expanded the preseason to 82 games. And then they're going to play in the playoffs. And that's where it really begins. And then even then, it's like the first round of the playoffs is like, okay, yeah, just get through this and get out of the second round. Could you imagine a world where Nick Nurse has this team playing phenomenal basketball? James Harden's happy as hell. He's playing well. Joel Embiid is playing at an MVP level again, but he's more of a facilitator. You're seeing more of that half-court offense have success. You're seeing Paul Reed come off the bench, get you significant minutes. Tobias Harris is a solid 3-and-D guy. Patrick Beverly is pissing people off. PJ Tucker and him are having shouting matches over who wants to win more. I know I'm going to beat that joke to death, but anyway. And then they actually grabbed like a number 2 seed. Let's just say that, number 2 seed. Even then, we're going to be like, all right, great, just make it out of the second round of the playoffs. And then win a championship while we're at it. Sean Kilrain saw reports that we might be interested in Cody Bellinger or Tesco Hernandez. Would be interested in would be interested in the play of Kyle Schwarber. Bellinger is on a 1-year deal as well. Yeah, Bellinger, what are his numbers this year? Phillies just saw him not too long ago. But yeah, you talk about a guy with some great talent. It was with the Cubs series, yeah. 298 batting average, 9 home runs. If they could get him on a rental for not a lot, then yeah, I'd absolutely love that. Another left-handed bat. Cubs 42 and 47 on the season. They've hit a little bit of no, they're still inconsistent ever since that Phillies series. So yeah, they'll probably be sellers. Wait, how many games out of the wild card are they now? Live research, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing more riveting than live research. Looking at the Central. Oh, yeah, the Reds have been the red-hot team. So Reds are at 50 wins already this season. I shouldn't say already. It's the All-Star break. But still, they've absolutely been on fire, as you guys know. Cubs, yeah, 7 games out of first place in that division. So, yeah, forget about that. And 7 games out of the wild card, I believe. So that's a bit of an issue for the Cubs. 6.5 games out of the wild card. So, yeah, odds are they're going to be sellers. I'd love the addition of Cody Bellinger. It's one of those things that, yes, you're not going to have to mortgage the future for. A guy like Paul Goldschmidt, for instance, probably going to be a steeper asking price, as one would assume, for that veteran player. And also, he'd be your first baseman. But, yeah, I think the Phillies are going to make another move. I think they're absolutely going to make another move, or make a move, I should say, before the All-Star break. Before the deadline. I'm getting lost in my own research here. But yeah, Cody Bellinger would be a welcome addition. So, Sean Gillespie, what's going on? It's the way the Phillies lost, or the way the Phillies lose. Mullen Alvarado, random question. Any idea what Real Muto murmurs to himself when he gets set in the box? No idea. I've noticed that sometimes, it looks like he's talking, but I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea what JT Realmuto murmurs to himself. Sean Kilrain, what's going on here? He does remind me of that cartoon dog with that. Sean Kilrain, he does remind me of the cartoon dog with his name. Oh, what the hell is his name? His name is Droopy. Oh, boy. Droopy. Droopy is one of my favorite all-time cartoon characters. Droopy was you don't see Droopy around too much anymore, but I always loved the Droopy would play. It'd be like he'd go up against a wolf, right? I think it was a wolf. Droopy would go up against a wolf in like some race or some competition, and like Droopy would lose, and he'd be like, "Oh boy, I lose again," And then it'd be like, "Your prize is a date with this beautiful lady," and it would be like the curtain would come up on this like really nice legs, right? And then like really really nice body, and then the curtain would go up past the face, and the cartoon woman would just be a hideous beast of a cartoon woman, and so Droopy, although lost the race, still wouldn't have to go on the date with the ugly woman. Maybe that's why they don't show it anymore. Maybe that's why I don't see the cartoon anymore, because that's not exactly PC these days. But no, it was a great cartoon. T-Bro says JT is talking to Joe Boo. There we go. In Oklahomian. Let's go over to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody. You guys are great. Farzy, don't get mixed up with the Phillies. Don't have to finish higher than the Marlins. There's 3 wild card winners. Now, they're not better than 2 of the bunch. The Reds, the Brewers, Padres, Giants. All right. Heads have to roll in the offseason. Check the schedule the rest of the way. It's a joke. So it's easy, littered with clusters of games against the Mets, Nationals, then series with KC, Cleveland Pirates, teams that are not good at all. Easy second half of the schedule. Farzy, Stat is better than Alcia from the Braves or the guy from the Marlins hitting almost 400. The answer is no. Stat obviously does not deserve All-Star before those guys. Oh, no. I agree. I'm sorry, Barbara. Babs. I'm sorry. I don't mean that Bryson Stat needs to be an All-Star. I'm saying that he should have gotten more consideration. Just, in other words, for guys on the Phillies that are going to the All-Star game, like the next one up, if I had to push one more to the All-Star game, it would be Bryson Stat. I look at Bryson Stat now, and I think professional hitter. And I think that's one of the most complimentary things you could say about a guy, especially a young guy. And it's not like he's a butcher at second base. Yesterday, 2 things I meant to mention about yesterday's game. The first thing is Alec Boehm's error in the 3rd inning. It ended up coming back to bite the Phillies in the ass. It went from 4-0, and then that run ended up scoring, so it went to 5-0. And then Bryson Stat with the brain fart at second base with Myers running to second in a double play situation. You have an opportunity to start an inning out with a 4-6-3 double play. And who was it? Myers was running to second. Was it Sanchez? No, it was De La Cruz. De La Cruz hits to Bryson Stat. He fields the ball. Myers is running towards him from first. He thinks he's going to tag Myers. Myers just stops dead in his tracks. So instead of going, oh, okay, and flipping to Trey Turner, who was coming in to cover second, and then Trey Turner firing to first to get the double play, Bryson Stat stops, fires to first to get the first out, and then they try to fire to second to get Myers, and they almost do, but Myers evades the tag, and he's safe at second. So now you got a runner in scoring position with 1 out, as opposed to starting off the inning with a 4-6-3 double play. That doesn't help anybody out. I think it was Strom in the ballgame at that point. That doesn't help anybody out. So Bryson Stat, that was one instance yesterday where I was like, what are you doing? Anyway. Let's see here. And yeah, the Phillies' second half schedule is not exactly a lot worth bragging about in terms of strength of schedule. Let's put it that way. Sean Gillespie says, good morning to JAKIB Media. Babs is back. Here's the lineup. JT catcher. Harper at first. Stott at second. Trey at shortstop. Boehm at third. Outfield, Marsh. Pache center field. Oh, you have him left field. Cassie at right field. Schwarber. I got you. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Stott would have been next guy. Love your show. Really enjoyed. Oh, Babs, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. But no, if you look at Bryson Stott, for instance, this year and what he's been able to do, think about the guy that went down to the minors last year, and then think about the guy that came up and how good Bryson Stott has been over that stretch. And this year, talking about a guy, no matter where he's hit in the order. Now, he did struggle a little bit at the leadoff spot, but Bryson Stott now goes into the All-Star break with 100 hits. Okay? Did you hear the name they were rattling off there yesterday? Richie Ashburn, Larry Boa, like guys that go to the All-Star break for the Phillies that have 100 hits. Few and far between. But Stott's one of them. He goes 2 for 3 yesterday. Another multi-hit game for him. He's hitting 301 with a 338 on base percentage. Yeah, that's pretty good. Nick Castellanos, 301 as well with a 344 on base percentage. Trey Turner's on base percentage overall, still nothing worth bragging about at 299. But if you look at what he's been able to do over the last month, for instance, of the season, I'd mentioned before his month of June, 253 on base percentage. The month of July, it's unfortunately, yes, it's come down and it's 35 at bats. It's now at 250. So you need to get that going again. But overall, last 2 weeks, it's been over 300. Last month total, it's been 347. So love to see those numbers get back up there for Trey Turner. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Phillies will be back in action. Oh, All-Star game is tomorrow night in Seattle. Nick Castellanos, Craig Kimbrell, see them hopefully out there in the ballgame. It'd be nice to see it. They'll be out there. It's just a matter of not whether they'll play. And then also Phillies being back at it Friday night in South Philly when they return to action from the All-Star break. 48-41. Earlier start time, 6:05 start time for the Phillies and Padres. Padres have had a rough go of it as of late. But they just lost. They just won against the Mets. They took 2 of 3 from the Mets. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. So they've turned things around a little bit. They swept the Angels and then took 2 or 3 from the Mets. Including yesterday's game against Max Scherzer. So, Phillies, enjoy the off week. Aaron Nola, rest up. Ranger Suarez, take a break. Bryce Harper, get healthy. Everyone relax. During this time off, come back Friday, ready to roll, baby. Ready to roll. I still think the Phillies are still a playoff team. They're not in the playoffs right now, but I think when all is said and done by the end of the year, they will be a playoff team. You do have to keep an eye on September because it's going to be a rough stretch of divisional games, and as we have seen, the Phillies don't beat their teams in the division. That's rough. So hopefully they'll fix that problem come September, and hopefully they'll have a better lineup. They haven't reached their potential, but they will. That will live rent-free in my head until you see this lineup start mashing again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. To people on the podcast, thank you very much as well. The numbers on the podcast have been very good. I appreciate that. To everybody else, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your Monday. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow right here. Same bad time, same bad channel. Jim Hyden produced the program. Did a wonderful job as per usual. My name is Mark Farzy. I'll see you guys tomorrow.